What's going on, guys? ClickVice here. In today's video, we're going to go over one of my favorite boosts, the LBRS 120 mob pool. I'm going to go in depth on some of the common and frustrating pitfalls associated with this boost, especially with the kill phase and how the mobs seem to deleash for so many people. If you like this video, please consider dropping a like, comment below on what you want to see in the future, and consider subbing to the channel. I'm live on Twitch and YouTube almost every single day. I'd also like to give a special shout out to Grimlaw, Taylol, Crypto Maverick, Zearp, and Billy the Kid for their help in making this video. Additionally, big shout out to TMP. He's how I discovered this pool, and I'll drop all the links to their channel in the description. And last thing is, I want to thank everyone who's come out and support my channel. I just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I really appreciate it. This is just the beginning. Now let's get into the video. Alright, so for talents, your bread and butter for this pool is going to be Arcane Concentration and Arcane Meditation. You will be quite mana starved for this, and you'll be relying heavily on your clear casting procs, especially if you're pulling the ogres. They have a pretty high health pool, so more mana is better. This is just a standard frost spec. One thing I like to point out is you don't need improved frostbolt and you don't need improved cone of cold. This is an old spec I've been using. And now we'll get into the consumes. For consumes, you're going to want to conjure all your gems. Mana potions are extremely critical. Ideally, you want to use major mana potions, but you don't have to. The ogres have a way larger health pool, and sometimes the mobs will despawn before you get a chance to loot them because the ogres just take so much longer to kill. Health potions are good in a pinch, but you have so many ample opportunities to bandage that I think bandages are fine. I highly recommend engineering for this pool. While it's not entirely necessary, it's how I do the pool. And if you're serious about AoE grinding, I'd recommend doing engineering. Some honorable mentions are the Lesser Invisibility Potion, because you can reset if you screw up the initial jump. Lips can be good. There's some cool stuff you can do out of the ice block out of that. And then a weird one that I like to use sometimes is a Nature Protection Potion, because the ogres do cast Chain Lightnings, and it can surprise you, especially if you're not locked in. And now let's go over the gear. So for gear, I don't have anything crazy. I was actually prioing MP5 and Spirit for this. You don't need Prebis, I don't think. PvP gear would be fine. Prebis is fine. Of the owl gear is what I would prio if you're just hit 60 or something like that. But right now with mage armor, I have 108 wall casting and 194 MP5 while not casting. And I think it's actually helped me out a lot because you want to keep your ice barrier up, especially if some of the mobs are casting spells on you. And then now let's get into the movement to the initial reset spot before the pull. Real quick, I'm going to show you the route your boosties will take after you draw aggro. They're going to take a left here and stand near the Uber's door, having them jump up on this ledge right here. So getting into position, I'm going to go through this part quickly as it's not the actual pull itself. If you need to watch this part again, just slow down the playback speed in the video settings. To get in position, start this run, make sure you pull that pack with a counter spell, and your boosties can stand at the Uber's door. Make sure if they're going to follow you to not follow too close or the pull aggro. Jump down this ledge, and then you're at the reset spot. From here you can drink, rebuff, do whatever you need to do, and that gets us to the actual pull itself. From here I like to top off on health and mana. Also reapply all my buffs, Ice Armor, Dampen Magic, Arcane Intellect. In this clip I put on Mage Armor, but if you're just starting out with this pool, I definitely recommend Ice Armor. I also recommend marking all the mobs if you're just starting out with this. Skull I normally mark is a single patrol melee mob. Blue is a pack of 2, usually with casters. Purple is a mob that I like to blizzard with blue to start the pull. And then orange is a mob that pats around between the two tents. I highly recommend pulling purple and blue together because it'll aggro a bunch of orcs, and this will reduce the amount of orcs in the village as you're running back through to the kill spot. And now from here, let's go over the jump. From here, I apply Ice Barrier and Mana Shield. That way if I grab aggro on the jump, I can still survive. I stand on this crack right here and I aim my character towards the top of that hut, and I apply Slow Fall, run, jump, and then half a second after I see their nameplates, I then blink. And then I tuck into the corner, going left. That way I don't aggro any patrols, and now you're in position to start the pull. Real quick, I'm going to show you what to do if you ended up grabbing aggro off the jump. I got aggro off the jump here, so I'm going to run to the reset rocks, and I'm going to stand in the crack of the reset rock until the orcs de-aggro. Once they're de-aggroed, I'm going to try to de-aggro the spider here, so I'm going to stand right here, and then it'll eventually de-aggro. From here I'm going to pop an invisibility potion and then get into position to start the pull. To start the pull, I rank 1 Blizzard on Diamond and Blue, and then I select that mob, Fire Blast, grenade these mobs. Oftentimes there's a patrol right here. This is the reason that I went to Ice Armor. Run past these two. Nova, counterspell this Darkweaver, blink. Resist their urge to reapply your Ice Barrier. You want an Ice Barrier here so that you won't get dazed on the mobs. And now I wait for 3 seconds till my blink's up, typically. So then I'm able to immediately blink past the spider boss. And I'm keeping all my shields up as long as I can. I'm spamming mana shield to try to keep it healthy so that I don't get dazed here. Nova this pack. Watch out for these little rocks on the right. Keep your mana shield up. If your mana is very low, you can use a gem if you need be. But here I was fine. So blink right there. Rank 1 Blizzard. Trying to get all the packs bunched up. It's important for the leash to keep the packs bunched up, and there's a major key I'm about to show you for the leash here soon. Then I'm going to rank 1 Blizzard this pack, and then counterspell that Ogre Nova, and then I Icona Cold Sarkoth right here, and I resist the urge to blink. I know the mobs are very close to me, but this is good because I want the mobs to get bunched up. And then I jump down here, I just run straight, and then I evocate. I don't run to the left. I see a lot of people doing that. I think it's worse because more mobs can hit you and it takes longer. So then I jump over here and then just S key off that rock. What I like to do is line of sight the casters, like have them start casting on me so that they stop. And then a lot of times I'll bandage right here. But I didn't here because I was full health, basically. Blink right here, and then I go over to this left beam. This is a major, major, major key for keeping the mobs leashed so you get ogres and spiders. So I'm here, I'm staying as long as I can. My blizzard doesn't hit anything, not a big deal. They start casting on me, I jump down, ice block. Now all the mobs are running past, and I know I'm going to get that good leash. I'm going to get all the mobs here. Then out of the ice block, I'm going to rank 1 blizzard the furthest backpack, counterspell this pack here, and then I'm going to grenade this pack right here. And you want to keep shields up at all times. Right after I grenade there, I always blink. And I Nova any mobs that are on me or Kona Cold. You just want to keep your shields up and your Flame Ward as they're casting on you. Try to line of sight the mobs as best you can. Oftentimes with this mob's aggros, I'll have Frost Nova blink through the barrels here. And then I apply Mage Armor. And sometimes I'll reapply Dampen Magic, not a big deal. I also like to remove a bandage to top off on health. I'm going to show you 2 ways you can jump. The first is a single jump W method. I don't personally prefer this method because I've noticed the mobs are way less responsive. I jump and hold W, but they take a bunch of extra steps. Instead, I like to double jump. There's a certain rhythm with the double jump that I like to take to group the mobs up. You'll see that with the single jump, these spiders take a bunch of extra steps. Now the mobs aren't grouped up. So I need to do this rhythm. You want to do this in your head. Jump up, down, jump up, down, right? Do you see how the mobs are running in opposite directions? That's good because it'll cause the mobs to group up, and not only will it preserve mana, it would also save your life in a pinch, and I'll show more clips like that later. So now I put my reticle on that line, a little past that line, so I blizzard the mobs, and you don't want the mobs to get past that line that Dark Weaver was just at. You don't want the mobs on the right side to get past that small rock. You see, I don't let them get past there. I blizzard a little bit past that line, so they're running in the blizzard twice. I select the first mob, and then I rank 1 Fire Blast as I jump off the rock. This is so I can try to get clear casting procs. Additionally, you want to keep your Ice Barrier and your Fire Ward up at all times if you can. Fire Ward, not as necessary. If you're low health, definitely keep it because you can get one shot by a Flame Strike, especially if you have Mark of Flame on you. So again, jump up, and then I blizzard. Another thing you should always do is turn your camera as you're blizzarding. Information visually is super important to see, so always turn your camera. Additionally, always pop your gems on cooldown as well as mana potions. This will make your run go faster. And again, I'm selecting the first mob, jumping off, trying to get that Fire Blast. Didn't get it. Not a big deal because it canceled the Chain Lightning off the Ogre there. For whatever reason, the mob's right there went like on the rock towards me. That's fine. Now they're not grouped up, so I'm just going to do the same thing. Jump up, down, try to juggle them again. Watch out because you can get hit by the ogres on the other side of the rock. So I'm juggling between that small rock and that tent. That tent and that small rock. That's kind of ideal. Then I blizzard here, and they're running back twice through the blizzard, selecting the first mob. Didn't try to go for the Fire Blast here. I have a clear casting, that's why. So I have a clear casting up. So go up, Boom. You see how the mobs pause when you double jump? There's good and bad things about that. Sometimes when you double jump, some of the mobs will reset health because you are partially resetting, but personally, I prefer it over the single jump method. So now you see the mobs are split up again. I'm just going to do the same thing, juggling them, jump up, down, keeping them between that tent and that small rock on the right side. That's a major, major key for the kill phase. And so then again, now that I'm in position, I'm blizzarding them. This might be a rank 1 blizzard. I'm not really sure. I only really rank 1 blizzard if I need a grouping. But I'm trying to get as many max rings as I can, trying to be mana efficient as possible. Again, keeping them on the right side to juggle, and that tent up there is where you kind of want to keep the juggling spot. Again, not letting the mobs get past that line or the small rock on the right side. Blizzard again. Trying to select that first mob. Not in line of sight. I think if you jump, it really helps get in line of sight. I feel like I've noticed that more. So again, now some of the mobs are low health. You'll see the orcs are very low health there. And it can get kind of tricky to see who's who. So you see how that firebrand grunt, again, I think you should turn your camera so you can see the lane that they're coming down. I don't do it enough in this clip, but that is definitely a major key just to get more information. Additionally, I'm using mixed scrolling battle text here, so then I'm not seeing all the numbers in visual clutter. Visual clutter can get you killed in this. Sometimes you won't be able to see surprise chain lightnings off the ogres, and if the ogres crit you with a chain lightning, it could be GG. So definitely, like, you don't have to have it. I've done a lot of kills without it, but I don't really care to see all the numbers anymore now that I'm AoE grinding. It's probably better for stuff like dungeons and raiding, but for this, where you have, over 100 mobs you're juggling, I think less visual clutter is better. So again, now the mobs are kind of spread out. So you can there's one of two things you can do. You can juggle them or use Blizzard. Blizzarding like that, how I just did, will be a little less mana efficient. But overall, it's also good to just keep them grouped. So even if they walk into your Blizzard, it's not a bad idea. The one thing I'll say, though, is that if you're Blizzarding and one mob doesn't get the slow debuff, but all the rest do, or something like that, like, it can cause problems because then they can split up. So you really want to make sure that when you're blizzarding, you're seeing that all the mobs are getting the slow debuff. That's another reason you want to turn your camera. Again, I'm not doing it that much in this clip. I think it's just because I've been used to this pull by now. But again, so you see that Firebrand Darkweaver probably didn't get slowed by Blizzard there, and so that's why she's kind of getting split up. If the mobs envelop you, the pull can go south very quickly. Another thing I want to point out is it's very good to keep up your ice barrier, as even though it costs mana, you don't want to lose health, especially because you don't have to use mana. You don't have to use health potions. It's way better to use mana potions. Another thing I like to point out is that the ogres, when they get too far forward, it can cause problems. I've noticed that sometimes that they will. I think it's because they're taller, since they can still see you, that you're in their line of sight. They don't always behave correctly and register you on the appropriate side of the rock, and they'll just run forward and start swinging on you. So I definitely like to keep the ogres as far back as possible. And the next thing to mention really is that a lot of times, if you're not fast enough, the mobs, the orcs will despawn by the time you kill the ogres with this pull. So if you don't have good gear, you don't have good mana regen, you're using cheaper potions, then they might despawn. So one thing I would say is either bring in major mana potions or use your gems on cooldown, try to get those clear casting procs. Or, I mean, there is pulls where you don't pull the ogres. I might do that in a separate video. But ideally, I think it's good to have the ogres, because there is even a bigger pull that I'll cover later, that you can get more mobs than just the ogres that are further past the ogres. So here, I'm just trying to finish the mobs here. That's how you should turn your camera. How I'm turning my camera here is how you should do it on every single one. Because it gives you so much information on what's going on. Additionally, once I'm done with this pull, I basically always reset the spider boss. There's really no reason, in my opinion, to try to get the spider boss if you're doing this as a boost. If you're doing this for fun in general, she doesn't drop that great of gear, and it's just going to slow down your pull. She's always basically like 40% health by the time I'm finished this pull, 30 to 40%. So it's just, trying to get that additional health down, not really worth it in my opinion. Um, and so yeah, that's essentially the pull. I think the spider is the last remaining, and so I go over here just to reset, jump up here, and then she'll reset. Um, Oftentimes, if you can reset with other mobs here, the only thing is if there's caster mobs, you definitely want to make it so they can't see you in their line of sight, because I've been casted on in this spot. So try to refrain from allowing them to see you. Now in the loot phase, the boss just reset. So from here, I'm just using an interact scroll wheel loot button essentially to loot as fast as possible. I'm also using D-Junk because there's these unordained seals of ascension that will clog up, will make it just harder to loot essentially. So I'm just destroying next item. It's in precedent of what's the cheapest. So I just loot here. Alright, so now that I'm done looting, I'm going to use the item rack add-on so I can take off all my gear and then jump in the lava to reset to the graveyard. Alternatively, if you have a warlock, you can just have them summon you to the entrance of the instance. Try to prioritize getting them in your group. Stick around for this next section though, because I'm going to show you a bunch of tips that I wish I'd known going into this, so check that out. What I like to do after I finish evocating is come to this doorway and bandage. This will prevent the mobs from casting on you to line of sight them. And then sometimes I like to run back out so they start casting. If you have a bad grouping, this is a good way to get the orcs to stay with the ogres so the ogres and spiders don't reset. Mark of the Flame is a pretty nasty debuff, and you should use Ice Block to cleanse it off, even if that means using Cold Snap. This next clip, I try to cast Blizzard when the mobs are way too far in the alley. I'm getting greedy because there's a clear casting proc that I want to use. The problem is this is going to split up all the mobs. So what you really want to do is have the mobs all grouped up on the right side and then Blizzard when they're on their left side. So really the right side is for grouping and the left side is for Blizzard. But if you allow them to get inside the alley, then you're going to have a bad grouping like you see in this clip. Don't let the mobs get past that line I designated earlier. You'll see that I let 2 casters get up to that line, and then they cast Flame Strike and Fireball, and they're getting ungrouped with the rest of the pack, so don't let them get past that line. So in this next clip, I have a really bad grouping on the mobs, and I'm trying to get the lead mob back with the rest of the pack because he's just basically free casting on me. And so there's a bunch of different things you can do depending on what kind of mob they are. You can grenade, you can sheep, you can Cone of Cold, you can Frost Nova. Here I go with a sheep, and so then I Blizzard the rest of the pack. And once he's about to break out a sheep, then I select him, and then I Fire Blast him, and now he's with the pack. And then now the run went smoothly, and I was able to salvage it. Alright, in this clip, the mobs are really spread out, and they're trickling in. And so what I got to do is do the jump up down method, keeping the mobs on the right side as they trickle in. If they go to the left side, then you're going to have problems with your grouping, and they'll probably start swinging on you if they go too far down on the left alley. You want to keep them between the small rock and that tent essentially. You see how once the mobs get to the small rock, I then jump up again. So that's kind of the pattern of how you want to do this, keeping them between that tent and that rock, jumping up and down in that rhythmic way. I wasn't able to show this in the run earlier, but always try and counterspell the mobs if you see their cast bars going up. This will not only prevent them from doing damage to you, but it'll help with the grouping as they'll stop casting and then get back with the pack. Last tip here, this might look a bit familiar if you watch the intro. So if you are getting aggro on the slow fall jump, you can go this way and slow fall jump down here. Either Nova or Cone of Cold those mobs right there, jump up on this ledge, and you're going to run down here, and then you want to aggro these ogres so they start running the opposite direction. And right here I just Nova, and then I jump down and I blink. Alright, so from here you're going to want to Blizzard this pack, rank 1 Frostbolt, rank 1 Frostbolt, jump down, Nova this pack, and then I just blink past this, and it's the rest of the pool is the same from there. Alright, so that's it for the video. Please comment below on what you want to see in the future. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.